Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing safe. So I have here the Vivo X80 Pro. This is apparently going to be the top dog phone, the highest end model in Vivo's X80 series. There's apparently not going to be a Vivo X80 Pro Plus, unlike the last few models like the X70, X60, X50 all had a Pro Plus model. And this is the Vivo X70 Pro Plus here. I think Vivo is just trying to simplify its naming scheme to make it less complicated, so the Pro is just going to be the highest end model, and for the most part all the specs and components here are premium flagship territory. It seems like a natural successor of the Vivo X70 Pro Plus. However, there does not seem to be much changes in the hardware. The main camera, it's a new sensor. It's a Samsung GN-V sensor, but it's really just a minor upgraded version of the GN1 sensor that's already used in the X70 Pro Plus. And then otherwise, the ultra-wide camera, zoom lens are all the exact same hardware. However, the Vivo X80 Pro has a newer imaging chip. It's a Vivo's V1 Plus. This one is just V1. From what I can see from the photo samples, it seems like the V1 Plus aims for a little bit more natural colors. If you look at these side-by-side comparisons, the X70 Pro Plus's colors pop a little bit more. To some people, that may look better, and I'm tempted to say so too, but it looks slightly unrealistic, particularly in shadows. When you're shooting against backlight, you should have some shadows, and the X80 Pro keeps some of the shadows for a more natural look. Also, another change, the gimbal camera system, now it's no longer supporting the ultra-wide camera, it's supporting the 2x telephoto zoom lens, whereas on the X70 Pro Plus, it was supporting the ultra-wide camera. So that means if I shoot ultra-wide videos and I'm moving around, the X70 Pro Plus video may look more stable than the X80 Pro. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it to the real world test, just to see if the Vivo X80 Pro's camera system really is better than the X70 Pro Plus or not. So earlier I said during the day the X80 Pro tends to have more natural colors, but when you're shooting at night, both shots, at least right here in this scene, looks pretty much identical, even if you go all the way up to 400% cropped. And then we're going to switch out to the ultra wide. Same story with the ultra wide, not much to report here, both shots are virtually identical. So the X80 Pro's 2x zoom has that gimbal stabilization system, so if you do need to use night mode, it should fare a little bit better, but here the street is too well lit, so night mode did not kick in at all, so these shots look exactly the same. Now interestingly, at 5x zoom we can see that the X80 Pro's image is clearly better. The colors are very washed out in the X70 Pro Plus for some reason. I'm gonna do an ultra wide video and I'm gonna walk around, maybe jog around, just to see if stabilization is indeed better on the X70 Pro Plus than the X80, because this one has a gimbal camera system. This one does not. So I'm just walking kind of fast right now. I'm gonna jog a little bit. You can clearly see the X80 Pro's footage is shakier without that gimbal stabilization. Okay, while I'm at it, I might as well test the main camera. So we're watching main camera footage now with the Vivo X80 Pro and the X70 Pro Plus. This main camera footage. So I'm gonna look into this dark alley here to see which one is more light sensitive. How does it look in terms of grabbing my face? So one new trick the X80 Pro can do that the X70 Pro Plus cannot do for video is OK video. You see in the X80 Pro there's a extra button up top in the viewfinder that you don't see here. So now there should be a little bit of a bokeh around me on the X80 Pro's footage, but not on the X70 Pro Plus. Let's see how it looks. Does it look okay? Try to extend as much as I can. Okay, so I'm in a pretty dark alley right now. Let's test out the cameras and low light performance. This is really low light. So main camera first to see the difference in image sensor size. So the first thing you'll notice is that the X70 Pro Plus's colors pop a lot more. Look at how much more vibrant that blue is. But again, this is the V1 Plus chip in the X80 Pro, maybe going for a more natural look. But I think if you ask people, most people would say the X70 Pro Plus's image looks better. Ultra-wide camera. Now both phones have the exact same ultra-wide camera hardware, except the X70 Pro Plus has the benefit of a gimbal stabilization system. So that means if you do take photos in low light situations, which means you need to use night mode, the X70 Pro Plus will be a little bit sharper because the gimbal offsets some of the micro shakes that your hand might produce. Okay, so here, even though I'm shooting in low light and the phones use night mode, the X70 Pro Plus's 2x zoom is still just as good as the X80 Pro, so I'm not sure where that gimbal stabilization comes into play for the X80 Pro. 5x zoom. So earlier, the X80 Pro's 5x shot beat the X70 Pro Plus's 5x shot, but now here in low light situations, now it's basically neck and neck. Quality is very similar. Okay, we have another pretty dark scene here. Let's take another couple more shots here. So now this is interesting. Even though both phones did about the same job in pulling in light, it is now the X80 Pro's image that looks less realistic because the X80 Pro's image fixed white balance a little bit to make the shot look less yellow. So the rules aren't always the same with the V1 Plus's color science. So now for low light videos, we can see that the X80 Pro's video has a little bit less noise than the X70 Pro Plus. This is probably the V1 Plus chip at play doing something to minimize noise. However, once I move over to the kitchen counter here, you can see the X70 Pro Plus's video is a little bit better lit, but then you get more noise. Another low light scene, same story. The two photos are pretty much identical in quality. Dude, it is like 4:01 a.m. right now and I'm still here editing this video, doing this late night camera comparison. I mean, I'm also watching basketball, but hey, I work quite hard to do these comparisons, so I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. But anyway, so the Vivo X80 Pro Plus, thanks to the new V1 Plus chip, it manages to produce a shot that's every bit as good as the X70 Pro Plus and sometimes better in terms of white balance and colors. However, there are definitely some shots where the X70 Pro Plus wins. And as you already saw, when it comes to video performance with the main camera, both are neck and neck, but with ultra wide camera, this phone has better stabilization because it has a gimbal camera system. Conversely, for 2x zoom, the gimbal camera system isn't really benefiting this 2x zoom. For 2x zoom shots, they're almost exactly the same. With 5x zoom shot, the X80 Pro wins a little bit. So ultimately, is the Vivo X80 Pro a better camera system than the Vivo X70 Pro Plus? I can't really say that. I mean, you've seen the video samples and the photo samples, everything look really close, or the Vivo X70 Pro Plus actually won. So I really think Vivo may be pumping out these phones a little bit too much now because it's hard to make major improvements even year on year. Like we saw the Galaxy S22 Ultra was only a little bit improved over the S21 Ultra. So the fact that Vivo trying to pump these phones out every 6 months, it's really leading to fewer and fewer like improvements along the way. So that means if you have the X70 Pro Plus, you don't need to get the X80 Pro at all. I mean, the only other thing that's benefit here is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip, and that doesn't really matter too. However, if you don't have the X70 Pro Plus, if you jump over from an older phone, then the X80 Pro will serve you very well because it has a camera system that is among the very best on the market. I know because this phone has one of the best camera systems on the market and they're basically very similar performers. But anyway, this is not a review, this is just a camera test comparing these two phones. I will put this phone more to the test and have a full review coming later, and I will also test this camera system against the iPhone 13 Pro and the Galaxy S22 Ultra. So anyway, it is 4:05 a.m. I got basketball to watch, I got video to edit, so please subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram at Ben Skagit Reviews. Thanks for watching.